Hello. In this video, we'll discuss the simple intuition behind the area under the receiver operator characteristic curve, or simply area under the curve, because the full name can be a mouthful. So we'll discuss what area under the curve means within the context of criminal recidivism risk assessment, but it can generalize to other situations as well. So what is area under the curve? It's a measure of predictive accuracy, how well your test distinguish between cases and non-cases, right? Usually the output of the area under the curve metrics can be somewhat daunting. As you can see, is a lot of plots, a lot of numbers, and the area under the curve is referred to this green shaded area, which is it's really hard to interpret it easily. So we'll develop a working intuition behind this concept. And this is a personal story, the story of Greg. He and his friends were released from prison this month, along with many other people in their county. And many of them will undergo what's called parole supervision. So they will be supervised for some time to make sure they do not commit another crime, and also to make sure that they have all the support they need. Many people relapse into crime because many of the factors that facilitated their criminal behavior in the first place still exist in their lives. And it can also be quite challenging to reintegrate into society after being released from prison. But alas, 2 years later, some of them committed another crime and ended up in prison again, but the majority desisted from crime. Policymakers and practitioners would like to really know in advance who among released prisoners is more likely to reoffend, so they can keep a closer eye on them or provide some additional support if necessary. As support may include substance abuse treatment programs, vocational training. So how can they do it? How can they predict the recidivism risk, and how can they do it as effectively as possible? They can use risk assessment. So the main way to predict someone's risk is by using some form of risk assessment, such as standardized risk assessment instruments. These instruments assess various risk factors that individuals are exposed to. It can be individuals' characteristics, it can be their circumstances. Many different instruments exist, and they have slightly different abilities to predict potential future offending. The ability of an assessment instrument to predict future outcomes is referred to as predictive accuracy, and one of the measures of predictive accuracy is area under the curve. Area under the curve has several technical interpretations, but our goal is to create a simple actionable intuition behind it. So imagine that we implemented a risk assessment instrument on Greg, right? And measured his reoffending risk using a risk score that ranges from 0 to 100. So it puts Greg somewhere here, around like 20, 25. So then we measured the risk in 10 more people, and they all received different scores, ranging from very low scores, around like 2-ish, 3-ish, up to 100. Then we'll let these people go about their lives, and we will check on them after 2 years. As you can see, some of them reoffended, some of them desisted from crime, and all the people who reoffended are our top scorers. So you can see the clear separation between people with high scores and the people with low scores. This perfect separation between reoffenders and desisters corresponds to area under the curve of 1. So it means that our tool can perfectly distinguish one group of individuals from the other. So the number of people who reoffended and their scores don't really matter as long as they are clearly grouped. So this is also area under the curve of 1, and this is also area under the curve of 1, just because we have clear separation and no intermixing. On the other hand, if we have a random classifier, so say our risk instrument is no better than a coin flip, we just don't look, we just flip a coin, don't look at any other factors. we would expect the results to look something like this. As you can see, they're almost evenly mixed. So again, different arrangements are possible, but since all of them are almost evenly mixed, all of the arrangements are almost evenly mixed, the area under the curve is 0.5. So there's no way for us to know whether the individual with higher risk score is at higher risk than individuals with low risk score. It doesn't tell us anything. So the risk assessment instrument with the area under the curve around 0.5 is basically useless. However, in practice, we usually don't see area under the curve values of 1 or of 0.5. Most risk assessment instruments have area under the curve values around 0.7 or 0.8. These values can correspond to different arrangements with some overlap between reoffenders and desisters. So overall, the better separation there is in our scores between desisters and reoffenders, the higher the area under the curve. The lower the separation, the lower the area under the curve. Also, there is area under the curve of 0, which basically means the same as area under the curve of 1, but just the scores are flipped. So basically, someone was holding the risk score upside down when they input the variables. So you can assume that area under the curve ranges from 0.5 when it represents just a coin flip to 1 when it represents an ideal separation between two groups. So it's pretty clear-cut case, right? The higher area under the curve measure, the better. Is it so? In general, yes. However, area under the curve, although an important metric, only presents half of the picture. To decide who we will consider high risk and who will we consider low risk of reoffending, we need some cutoff score. We need to draw the line somewhere. So individuals scoring at or above this line are considered high risk, while those scoring lower would be considered low risk. For example, if we set the cutoff score at around 60, we would correctly identify some reoffenders and desisters, but also misidentify some of them. So we would get sound correct and fall wrong. If we set lower cutoff score, we would have pretty similar results. We would have also sound correct and fall incorrect. However, in this case, we would sacrifice our accuracy in identifying desisters to achieve more accuracy in identifying potential offenders. So in real-life applications, there is an overlap in risk scores between desisters and reoffenders. So it's always a trade-off. It's always a choice to make. And this choice of threshold depends on the intended application of risk assessment results and other societal factors external to risk assessment. For example, if we want to prioritize the prevention of crime and provide intensive supervision to most potential reoffenders, we might consider a lower cutoff. So reoffenders would have a higher weight in our decision making. So gained accuracy for potential reoffender, we would consider it being more important than the lost accuracy in desisters. On the other hand, if we want to prioritize less intrusive supervision, such as in cohort of individuals who committed less dangerous crimes, so we want to facilitate their independence and reintegration, so we might choose a higher threshold. This way, desisters will have a higher weight in our decision making. So we would prefer to gain some accuracy within desisters and wouldn't care so much of losing some accuracy in potential reoffenders. So these trade-offs are described by such properties as sensitivity and specificity. And practitioners and policymakers should pay close attention to them and not focus too much on area under the curve, as most commonly used risk assessment tools have pretty comparable area under the curve values. And correct should be fine. Well, depending on the choice of threshold.
You can check out some extra content related to this video on our research group's website. The clickable link is in the description.
Bye!